Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome, Morris Talk Lab 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amana El Bay, and this evening, our special guest, Dr. Walter Williams, on the Historical Origins of Christianity, Part 3, will be with us this evening. We'll be dealing with the following questions. When was the Bible first put into print and by whom? Just what is the Roman Catholic Church? What was Christianity created for and by whom? What is religion designed for? Who benefits from religion? What and who is God? What proof do we have that God exists? Should people be afraid of God? These are just a few of the questions. Our special guest, Dr. Walter Williams, will give us a brief backdrop on moving on up into the earlier centuries here, so that we can get a clear and concise finding of what's going on, the Ottoman Empire, the Knights Templar, information on the Roman Catholic Church, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you have paper and pencil handy as we begin this broadcast. Our special guest will be dialing in shortly, so everybody just make sure you take your time, sit back, get your utensils ready, so that we will be able to get this thing going tonight. Now, we're going to go into our commercials, breaks that'll give you plenty of time to call in. The number to dial into the broadcast is 310-982-4184. That's 310-982-4184. Oh, yeah, we'll be right back. We're going to take a little commercial break, okay?
It's time. Summit of the Moors, December 19th through the 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. Several great minds working on one collective, economic security. For the first time in Jacksonville, Taj, Tariq, Bay, Yusuf, L, Akili, and back at the summit, Red Pill and Blue Pill, Tarhaka, Amana, El Bay, Sharif, Noble, and our Amma, the Abundance Child, with myself, Dalo Saku. Register today at www.summitofthemoors.com.
The truth is, you must be in business for yourself. Now let's take a look at this. Dial this number, 972-999-9277 for the 2-minute message. When you're done, call Tarhaka, 904-303-9061. You got to be in business for yourself. For the hottest business opportunity going today, dial 972-999-9277. 9277. That's 972-999-9277. When you're done, call Tarhaka, 904-303-9061. The greatest business opportunity this century. Don't miss it. You know, getting out of debt should be a number one priority. And to do that, just go to newdebtelimination.com. That's www.newdebtelimination.com. But now, when it comes to owning your own business, dial 972-999-9277. Again, 972-999-9277 for a quick 2-minute message. When you're done, contact Tarhaka, 904-303-9061. That's 904-303-9061. Get in business for yourself. Stop messing around. Stop going on these jobs and get into a business that you own and you control so that you can be free. Dial 972-999-9277 for a quick 2-minute message. Then call Tarhaka, 904-303-9061.
Okay, Moses, we back. Now, keep in mind that as Dr. Williams lay out this information, we're going to give him every opportunity to do so. And we will be opening up the phone lines. Anytime you're dialing into the broadcast at 310-982-4184, you simply press 1 on your dial, and that will give me an indication that you have something to say, and we'll open up the lines. Just press 1 on your phone. That lets you in. Now, keep in mind that after he says what he has to say, then the phone lines will be open. Make sure you write down the questions that you want to ask. Everybody will get a chance to get a chance to say what they have to say, okay? That keeps us from fumbling around and all of this stuff and trying to figure out something. This is why we got you to get the paper and pencil so you can not only take notes, but you can file your questions. Or if you have a comment, you're able to make a comment at that time. Okay. We're going to start off with this book, Historical Origins of Christianity, and this is what I want to bring to your attention before I guess dial into the broadcast and press 1 on his phone. As we approach the dawn of the new century, the Western communities continue to consolidate themselves politically, economically, and militarily. Yet the power behind these societies go far beyond their military bases. The key to Western power can only be gauged by its ability to control people throughout the world. To that end, the Western world has incorporated a philosophy of psychology where myths, lies, and deception are the order of the day, and death and destruction are the Western ways of life. Historically, as you progress through time, you will eventually encounter a powerful triad of religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. All of these religions have had strong mass appeal and persuasive powers, and they remain the most powerful tools in the Western world's arsenal of controlling forces. These religions serve as the ultimate sentry for Western world interests. They were developed and are perpetuated, preserve past gains, enhance present gains, and ensure future gains. Contrary to popular belief, Christianity serves as the foundation for both Islam and Judaism. To understand the historical origins of Christianity, it is to understand the true nature and purpose of religion. To understand religion is to take it out of the romantic and mysterious and the mystical and expose it as having no historical realism or boundaries. The only boundaries these religions have are that of the writer's imagination. Now, this is some very, very profound information. This is taken directly out of the introduction of the historical origins of Christianity, written by Dr. Walter Williams. And we are ready to proceed with this broadcast. And once again, make sure that you have pencil and paper. My position is as follows. I believe that people who believe in anything outside of themselves are doing themselves a disservice, unless whatever it is that you believe in is designed to benefit you, mostly financially. But to believe in something that you cannot see and something that you have never seen, in my opinion, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. So if you're going to believe in something, before you do that, what I would recommend that you do is do a background analysis on the ancient story or the origin of whatever it is that you're claiming to believe in. If you believe in Jesus Christ, well, we need to prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that he existed. If you believe in God, you need to have some tangible evidence that you can put down on the paper about something and somebody that you've never seen before. So I deal with the facts. There's a whole lot of things that are being attributed to God and Jesus. So let's take a look at the facts. Let's get the history. Let's get the ancient story. Let's get the origin so that we can put verifiable facts down on the table that you can see and that you can put your hands on and that you can bring up. Okay? All right. I'm going to open up the first line. Let's see what we got right here. Let's see. Dr. William, are you with us?
Yes, sir. I'm here, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Well, it's good to have you aboard. And, my brethren, you do have the floor for part 3, and we're ready to bring this thing on up to the 20th century. You have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Tarhaka, for inviting me on to your program. I certainly appreciate you doing that. And you are giving and offering a great service to our African community. And the service that you're offering is information that will help us liberate ourselves out of this dilemma that our African community is in America and all around the world. Now, I heard you said something about you should know yourself. That's true. If you before you can be introduced to anything in life, the first thing that you should know is something about your own self, because you live with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you should know something about your own personal humanity. And that's the first thing that should have been taught to you. However, these are some of the things that you should know. You should know that you, after coming out of your mother's womb, attached to her umbilical cord, that the doctor cut that umbilical cord to separate you from your mother. During your 9 months of incubation in your mother's womb, attached to her umbilical cord, through that umbilical cord, you receive air, water, and food. So therefore, once you completed your 9 months of incubation, you came out of your mother's womb attached to that umbilical cord, and the umbilical cord was cut by the doctor to separate you from your mother. But however, what you need to really understand is that you had continued life inside of your being, like you have life at this very moment that I'm talking to you. That same life that was given to you coming out of your mother's womb, you still have it at this very moment that I'm talking to you. You have to know this. You have an indwelling, divine, spiritual birthright, which is your life. But you were not given a religion coming out of your mother's womb. You were passed on a religion by your parents, who your grandparents passed on to them a religion. So therefore, in your innocent age, you were unable to say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Christian. So therefore, you received what your mom and dad had passed on to you, this disease and virus called religion. So man gave you this, created this for you to control you, control your actions, control your thinking. So therefore, these are some of the things that you should know. Also, you should know that coming out of your mother's womb, you were not coming out smoking cigarettes. Out of your mother's womb, you were not coming out drinking alcohol. Out of your mother's womb, you were not using drugs. Out of your mother's womb, you were not given a religion. So all four of these items that I just named are man-created items that man gave you to control you. So therefore, you should really know who you are. You should know something about your pineal gland. Your pineal gland is a sensory organ that sits in the middle of your brain. It serves as a receiver and a sender between you and your personal universe. Every human walking this earth is walking around in their own personal universe. And that universe that you are walking around in is your mind. If I cut your head open, I can see your brains, but I cannot see your mind. So your pineal gland is a conduit that keeps you in consciousness, that serves as a receiver and a sender between you and your own personal universe, which is your world that you live in. There are 7 billion humans walking this earth doing the same thing. And the one thing that keeps all 7 billion humans attached together is air, A-I-R. So therefore, you should know something about this. You should know how to use your mind, but you use it every day. But you got to be in control of it. Once you embrace a religion, you're out of your mind. You're not in control of it because all religions are based off of belief. That's the glue that keeps all religions together is one's belief. So therefore, if you have a religion or embraced a religion or been introduced to a religion in your early child, innocent age, when you couldn't say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to be a Christian, I don't want to be a Muslim, I don't want to be a black Hebrew Israelite, I don't want to be a Jew or a Buddhist, etc., etc., you must realize that belief is the glue that keeps all these religions together. But now, what beliefs will do for you, it will take you outside of your and control of your thinking. You're not in control of your thinking anymore. See, religions, all religions, no matter what name that you may be introduced to, those religions steals and robs the human being of their humanity. Belief does the same thing because when you embrace a religion, belief is the main factor. So therefore, what is belief doing to the human being? It's incarcerating your mind. It's limiting your thinking. It's like when you a prisoner go to jail, or a person goes to jail. That person is put into a jail cell 6 by 9. Now, he or she is only able to live within the confines of that 6 by 9 cell. They have to think, live, eat, sleep, etc. in that one cell. So the same thing what these religions will do for you. They'll put you in a incarcerated prison. It steals your humanity away from you. So therefore, you have to understand that this is what religions are all about, belief. Okay? But the first individual that you should have and use that belief on is your own personal humanity. You see, because in your mind, which is your world that you live in, which is your universe that you live in, you can create anything that you want to create. Okay, from your thoughts. Thoughts are things. You see, a man and a woman can create what they want to create. Like everything you see around you was once invisible, including you and I. So therefore, coming from one's thinking comes the things that you see around you. So therefore, a man or a woman singularly cannot produce anything with life. Singularly. They can only create things that has no life in it. Look around you. Everything you see, except for humans, except for the grass, flowers, trees, etc., etc., those things have life in it. But anything else, if you see a car, a truck, or a football, or a basketball, or clothes, or anything that man has created has no life in it. So you have to understand that about yourself. Now, you must understand about your subconscious mind, how your conscious mind and your subconscious mind works hand in hand. So therefore, you have to understand that the subconscious mind is where you store things, like on a computer, things that you want to store until you retrieve it or need to retrieve it again. You can go back in that computer and bring it up. So the same thing is your subconscious mind will serve the same purpose. You go back in your subconscious mind and pull up whatever you want to pull up because you have stored it there for you to do just that. So these are just some of the things that you need to know about your own personal humanity. And in order to have pro-life, like all humans come from pro-life, meaning that a man and a woman have a sexual relationship, have a sexual encounter to bring forth pro-life. So we all are products of pro-life by our parents having a sexual intercourse. So these are the things that you should know first, okay? Now, you're getting into a man-made religion. All religions, like I said before, are man-made, okay, based on mythology, based on allegories, metaphors, and then just outright lies. So we have to really understand that. Now, Christianity, our people in the African community talk about white supremacy. Well, the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is being institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. That's where you find the institution called white supremacy. And we, as an African people, you go into those churches and you support white supremacy, white superiority, and black inferiority. Because what you're doing when you go into those churches, you're telling this white image on the cross and that white man that you love him, that he is your God and Savior. And I always ask the African Christian community, do you think that the white race would take their children in a church that has a big black African Jesus hanging on the cross and teach their children and their family that this is their God and Savior? The answer would be hell no. By no means necessary or under no circumstances will they do that. So why are we doing it? Why are you African Christians going in these churches bowing down to your enemy on the cross? And you pray to him, you tell him that you love him, and then when you come out of those same churches, you got to go and beg white people that looks just like their image on their cross for justice and jobs and equal just treatment. So it doesn't really make sense, but this is something that you need to realize so you can hope, at least I hope, to give you this information so you can provoke thought. And so you can, once you begin to think, maybe you can come out of this dilemma. Now, I'm going to pick up from where I left off on the last time I was on Brother Tarhaka's show. Now, there's a lot of talk about the Moors. We're going to get into the Moors. You got to understand that the Moors, we're talking about a time, a beginning time for the Moors to enter Spain was 1051, okay? And what the Spanish government did at that time, they asked the Moors to come in. They invited the Moors to come and bring civilization to Spain. They asked the Byzantine emperor, could they allow or to have the Moors to come into Spain to bring civilization to Spain. They wanted no conflict between the Spanish government and the Byzantine emperors. They didn't want that. So that's the reason why they asked the Moors and invited the Moors to come in. Now, the word Moor is a nickname. A individual African who is a descendant of the ancient Egyptians lived in Morocco and Mauritania. Coming from Morocco and Mauritania, that's where you get the nickname Moor from. So they crossed the Mediterranean and they entered Spain in 1051. And what they did, once they got to Spain, they began to set up schools over there and began to teach literacy. How do you teach literacy? That you teach A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the ABCs. That is the first step in being a literate individual. Our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, during the time of antiquity, were the only literate people on planet Earth. Why? Because they created the world's first alphabet to make them literate. No other races of people had literacy but our ancient Egyptian African ancestors living in the continent of Africa, coming from the country that we know today as Egypt. From that culture came literacy, okay? And civilization sprang from our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, through their culture. So the Moors, like I said, is only a nickname given to a descendant of the ancient Egyptians. So in 1051, the Spanish government invited the Moors and asked them to come to Spain to bring civilization to pagan, uncivilized, heathen Spain. They did just that by setting up schools over there. They began to build buildings and cities over there because their ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, had created mathematics, all forms of mathematics. In order to build any type of building, you have to know mathematics. Without mathematics, you can't build anything. Our ancestors built a great pyramid, 490 feet high, with base 756 feet on all four sides of the base. And they built the Sphinx, one city block long, 6 stories high, with an African face carved in stone. So they knew mathematics. They knew how to build. So the Moors, as a descendant of ancient Egyptians, they knew the same thing. So therefore, they went into Spain. They began to set up schools and spread literacy there. They began to build buildings over there and build the cities of Seville, Granada, Cadillac, and Toledo, and other cities that they built over there. Okay? So now, therefore, that is some of the things, or the first introduction and the base foundation of understanding the Moors. Okay? So that was in 1051. So let's move a little further in history. We're going to come up to 1071, 20 years later, and we're going to have come up to the time of the Seljukian Turks who erupted out of Iran. Where did these Turks come from? Where did these people come from? They're speaking what we know today as Arabic today, okay? For the very first time, these people, the Seljukian Turks, erupting out of Iran, coming from Afghanistan and Pakistan. Afghanistan is a country, and Pakistan is a country that is borders Iran. See? So out of the Talabora Mountains came the Seljukian Turks. From the Caspian Sea came the Seljukian Turks out of the Caucasus Mountains, which is in northern part of Russia, but that region of the Caucasus spreads into Afghanistan. They came from that area in through Iran into northeast Africa. See, because Iran is part of northeast Africa. You see, so here they come, flooding into this area, erupting into this area, threatening the Byzantine Empire, and they brought with them a Arabic-speaking dialect, and they began to take territories away from the Byzantine Empire or the emperors. You see, so therefore they brought in a new dialect, whereby the Byzantine rulers, they spoke. Some spoke Greek and some spoke Roman or Italian, etc., etc. But now you have a different group of people, and they're known in history as the Seljukian Turks, and they erupted through Iran, and they began to cause a problem with the Byzantine emperors because they were beginning to take territory from the Byzantine emperors. And to the point where 25 years later, after 1071, the eruption of the Seljukian Turks via Iran into northeast Africa, 25 years later, Alexius I Komnenos called the world's first crusade to come about in 1096. And that first crusade was called by this Byzantine ruler. He called to Europe, to the barons in Europe, those rich barons in Europe, to send their army into northeast Africa to save the Byzantine Empire and to also save Christianity. Because in my previous lecture on this program, I told you about the world's first Christian church being the Church of Hagia Sophia that was commissioned to be built by Justinian in 532, finished in 537, commissioned African architects to design it and African builders to build it. That was the world's first Christian church. So it was housed right there in the double-walled city of Constantinople, known today as Istanbul, Turkey. See? So now here Alexius I Komnenos is calling to Europe those barons to send their armies over to help fight and take back from the Seljukian Turks the territory that they had taken from them by way of armed force. You see? So therefore, these Seljukian Turks, along with the Crusaders coming in, asked to be come in by Alexius I Komnenos, began to fight each other and try to save the Byzantine Empire or the emperor's territory for the Byzantine emperors. But they were not successful in doing that. So your first invasion of Turks into northeast Africa during the time of the Byzantine rule of Egypt, Syria, Turkey, Arabia, etc., etc. These Seljukian Turks threatened the sovereignty and the tranquility of that empire. So that was done in 1096 when you had the first crusade coming out of Europe. Walter the Penniless from Germany, Peter the Hermit from France. They were unsuccessful in coming into the area, but they finally made it over there in that area, but it was they had no impact on the Turks. So now what we're going to do now, we're going to come up to a time when Mohammedanism came into being. Now, you have two types of Islam. you have the very first Islam being Mohammedanism. Okay? And then you have today's Islam. How did Mohammedanism come about? It came about by a man and through a man by the name of Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi. Ibn al-Arabi was born in 1165 in Spain. He died 1240 in Egypt. Okay? Now, Arabi, Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi created and set the tone for Mohammedanism, set the tone for today's Islam. You see? So now, his name was Muhyiddin Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. That's very important. Alias Muhammad. Okay? So he was the first Muhammad. And in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, I have a chapter in there that says Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad, how they used his life and biography to create today's Islam. But that goes into another subject. Now, that's the foundation and the name that created the foundation for Mohammedanism, or your first form of Islam. Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. Now, we're going to go up. He died in 1240. We're going to go 60 years after his death. And 60 years after his death, we're going to move up into the Ottoman Turks, or the coming of the Ottoman Empire under the Ottoman Turks, which is 1300. That's the historical beginning date for the Ottoman Empire or the Ottoman Turks. When the Ottoman Turks came to power, Mohammedanism had begun to be taught and spread throughout Northeast Africa through the disciples of Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. They started that in 1239, a year before Ibn al-Arabi died. And then 61 years later, here come the Ottoman Turks, and they picked up that particular religion. This is how they did it. They went up and took a sword, and they went up to people throughout the empire, because the Ottoman Turks had destroyed and the Byzantine emperors and took their territories except for the double-walled city of Constantinople. That's the only place where the Byzantine emperors had a stronghold, was in Northeast Africa. In Istanbul, Turkey today, was at that point called Constantinople. So here they are, the Ottoman Turks, coming up to people all over that region with a sword, saying to them, Muhammad or die. So therefore, that included our ancestors who were living in the secular community, who refused to accept Serapis or Christ as a God. They were caught up into that frenzy, and they were approached with the sword by the Ottoman Turks, who said to them, Muhammad or die, 1300. That's the beginning date for the Ottoman Turkish Empire to begin. So now you have Mohammedanism, you see. So that is one of the things that we should know as a people if we're going to continue to talk about Islam, and Islam is out here. So when people ask me about, they want to debate me, which I don't debate people, because if I debate a person, that person is a person who believes and not a historian. So you cannot debate a person who believes, because that individual is an individual that you cannot get to because of his belief. He thinks by him believing all those years that he believed in whatever he believed in was right. So you're trying to bring up something that's historical and it means nothing to them. It's like oil and water don't mix. Okay, so this is the time of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. Okay, 1300. Okay, now what happened was we're going to modulate from this time. I told you that the Byzantine emperors were held up in the double-walled city of Constantinople. Okay, all around and outside of the double-walled city of Constantinople, the Ottoman Turks had taken the territory from the Byzantine emperors, even all the way up into the Balkan areas, even all the way across North Africa, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, Mauritania, Syria, Turkey, Arabia, Yemen. Because, see, Iraq was not made until after World War II. Then Iraq was made by the British government after they received from the League of Nations a mandate for that whole region except for Syria. The mandate that was given to them in 1920 by the League of Nations. The League of Nations today is the UN. But the British government took that mandate and they boarded off Arabia and they created the country that we know today as Iraq. They boarded off Iraq and created Kuwait to break up all that oil over there. So that was done in 1920. 1922, the League of Nations gave the French Syria. The French boarded Syria off, and they've created Lebanon and Beirut from Syria. So therefore, this is what you have over there today. Now, let's get back to the Ottoman Turks. They, for years, tried to penetrate the double-walled city of Constantinople, where the Church of the Hagia Sophia is located. Okay? They were unsuccessful in doing that. So therefore, they kept trying and kept trying. So in 1453, they were successful in breaking through and blowing a hole in the double-walled city of Constantinople and entering that city in 1453 under Muhammad or Muhammad II. Okay? But 14 years prior to him doing that, John VIII went into a curia in Florence, Italy. The word curia means college there in Florence, Italy. And he relinquished what is known as the donation of Constantine. I talked to you about the donation of Constantine in my last lecture, in the first section of my lecture on this particular program. But anyway, 1439, John VIII, knowing that it was imminent that the the Ottoman Turks were going to break through the double-walled city and seize Constantinople and seize the Church of Hagia Sophia, which he did in 1453. Now, when John VIII went into Italy, relinquishing the donation of Constantine in order to transfer the seat of Christianity out of Africa into Europe. This was the very first time. Now, so therefore, when that happened, the seat of Christianity was being set up to be moved into Europe. 1439. 6 years later, over on the outskirts of Rome, Eugenius IV and Nicholas V dug up down in the ground those catacombs Those are the catacombs are burial grounds that the Romans and Italians used to bury their dead on the outskirts of Rome. On the outskirts of Rome, they dug up all those graves and bodies to make way for the building of the Vatican. You see? So this was in 1445. They did this in 1445. Now, they began to build St. Peter's Church. St. Peter's Church is known today as St. Peter's Basilica. Okay? It's over there at this very moment. Okay? And then they began to build a double-walled city, a replica of the double-walled city of Constantinople. If you go over there today, in the Vatican is nothing but a replica of the double-walled city of Constantinople, held and built by Constantine and held by the Byzantine emperors. Okay? So therefore, they began to set up the second seat of Christianity. Now, mind you, the tenets and that image was created by our Melkite Coptic Egyptians in Egypt and developed in Turkey at those ecumenical council meetings. So therefore, but you don't hear anything about that. So therefore, they set up the second seat of Christianity. So today, as I speak, Christians all over the world are getting European Christianity with the foundation and the tenet of Christianity being developed and created, and that image being created and developed in Egypt and Turkey at those ecumenical council meetings. So now, so 1445, you find the beginning of the Vatican being built. You'll find 1445, you'll find the beginning of St. Peter's Church, known today as St. Peter's Basilica. Okay? Now, 30 years after the creation of the Vatican, we're talking about 30 years after 1445, we're coming up to 1475. In 1475 came the world's first printed Bible on planet Earth. But let's go back to who created the printing press, Johannes Gutenberg, in 1437. He created a printing press with movable print, but was unable to sustain himself financially. So therefore, he had to borrow money from a capitalist by the name of Johannes Fuss, F-U-S-T, at a high interest rate that he couldn't pay back. So that printing press was confiscated by Johannes Fuss. So therefore, it created a venue and a machine that could print up thousands of pieces of printed material and books, because this is at the very time of the Renaissance era being developed in Europe. Okay, we're talking about 1400, which is the 15th century. So the 15th and 16th century is the historical time of the Renaissance era. See? So therefore, people, the masses of people, were beginning to learn how to read in Europe. See, Europe, as I speak, has only had a institution of learning for 618 years with this year. Next year, it will be 619 years. That's the length of their educational system, or the age of learning era. And in 1397, an African by the name of Manuel Chrysaorus came from Constantinople, who was a teacher at the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia. He came in 1397 into Florence, Italy, at the Curia, C-U-R-I-A, means college, And he began to teach the rudiments of the Greek alphabet, the ABCs, to a handful students there. Because during the Renaissance era, they did not allow females to come into those institutions of learning until the middle of the 19th century. That's when they started letting them in. But let's get back to the Bible. 30 years after the creation of the Vatican, which was 1445, 1475 came the world's first printed Bible. The first printed Bible was printed in Italy, in a city called Bologna, Italy. And they printed that Bible using the Greek alphabet. That Bible was formulated by three men, Johann Ruslan, Marsilio Ficino, and Pico della Mirandella, his two Italian counterparts. Now, those three men collaborated on the creation of this Bible. The Bible that they used to create, it was known as the Hebrew Bible. That's the world's first printed Bible on planet Earth. Okay? They used the material to create their Bible from the writings of Moses Maimon, known today as Maimonides. You see? And that Bible was printed, but the problem at that time of the printing of that Bible in 1475, the Roman Catholic Church had no printed literature for their object. The object of the Roman Catholic Church was Jesus the Christ. They had no literature for their religion called Catholicism, or they had no literature for the religion called Christianity. Didn't have any. Johannes Ruslan translated that Bible from Greek into Latin and gave a copy to the Pope at the Vatican. That infuriated him when he did that, insulted him. So what Pope Alexander VI did was to reach for a playwright and an ex-Roman Catholic priest by the name of Desiderius Erasmus, who he asked to write something on the object of Christianity, which was Jesus the Christ. It took him 16 years to come out with what is known as the Novum Instrumentum. The Novum Instrumentum consisted of what is known today as the Synoptic Gospel of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and they always tell you that John came later, which John did come later in the King James Version of 1611. The King James Version was created for King James by Lancelot Andrewes and Francis Bacon and that group of theologians. They created this King James Version for King James in 1611, and in 1611, in the King James Version, the fourth gospel came out of John, you see. And in John, that's where you find Jesus the Christ being called a Jew, etc., etc. But getting back to the Synoptic Gospel of Mark, Matthew, and Luke, written and created by Desiderius Erasmus, a European famous homosexual. I'm not a homophobic, but if I'm going to tell you about history, that must be added. Okay? So he created Mark, Matthew, and Luke, as known as the Synoptic Gospel or Q literature or QLE literature. Now, along with creation of Mark, Matthew, and Luke, he also created 6 more manuscripts to add on to the 3, which is known as the Synoptic Gospel, and those 6 others were named 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, and Epistle to the Romans. So those are his 9 manuscripts that he created for the Novum Instrumentum, which came out in 1516. In 1519, they changed it from the Novum Instrumentum to the Novum Testamentum. In 1535, they changed it to the New Testament. So this is how you get the New Testament today. Okay? So I'm just giving you a short overview, and right now I'm going to complete this, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Brother Tarhaka. You have the floor.
Okay, brother. Dr. Walter Williams, that was a fantastic overview of what's been going on and what we have in the form of religion and how it was started. I commend you on your thorough research and your book. I like to recommend that brothers and sisters read this thing over and over until you get this down to a science, till you know that you know that you know. And I'm going to ask some questions here, and we will be opening up the phone line. So if you have a question for Dr. Williams, the number to dial in is 310-982-4184. That's 310-982-4184. Just press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say, and I will open up the phone line so you can get in. Now, I have a series of questions, Doctor, and I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up to the top. Now, my first question is, should people be afraid of God? And if not, why?
Well, they got to understand who God is. See, God is a man. If you don't believe that God is not a man, every time an individual uses the term God or say God, they say he is a him. They've been misled especially by these religions, especially Christianity. They tell you that the preacher will tell you, coming from the Bible, that God created the heavens and the earth. No, God did not do that. God is part of creation. Who is God? God is a man. My wife came to me one day and said, Walter, I'm going to tell you something about God. She says that God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. So now, let's go back. Actually, is God. Okay? God, like I said, is a man. God is creation. Now, what is creation? Creation is the stars, the sky, the planet, the moon, sun, air, earth, water, vegetation, animals, and humanity. So we as men and women are part of creation. See, God can't create that. Okay? God is a man. So therefore, only thing God can do and goddess can do is have a sexual intercourse. And from that sexual encounter between the two comes pro-life. But man, God, cannot create the heavens and the earth. Can't do that. See? Now, I know who created. I can give you the answer. Who created the stars, the sky, the moon, planet, earth, and so forth and so on. I can tell you that. The answer to that, if I'm asked, the answer is it's a mystery of life. You will never, ever know that. You will never know how and who and what created the sun, what created the moon, what created the sky, what created planets, earth, air, and so forth and so on. What did that? You will never know that because it's a mystery. And I'm going to tell you why as we go a little further. The second question that people ask is that when and what created the first man and woman? Okay? I can give you that answer. No human can give you that answer. The answer is called, it's the mystery of life. That's it. You will never know when the first man and woman first appeared on earth, what got them here on earth as humans. Don't know that. It's impossible for you to know. You can go to school all you want to, get all kinds of degrees. You will never ever know those questions about the creation of the stars, the moon, the sun, and so forth and so on. Or who created the first man and the first woman. Impossible. Third question. When an individual go and to a funeral, they look down in the casket at the deceased. The question has to be asked, where did that individual's spirit go? The answer is called a mystery of life. You won't ever know that either, because you have never met a person who died that you went to their funeral and they came back and told you what happened. Okay? Fourth reason why you will never know. No human on earth can tell you how they got here on earth as humans through the process of that 9 months of incubation in their mother's womb. You can't tell me how you got how you were created during that 9 months. You found yourself here at a certain geographical. You found yourself here at a certain conscious memory in your mind. That's it. I found myself, Walter Williams, at 4 years old here. Okay, living in Chicago, belonging to a certain race of people. Now you can multiply my experience to every human on earth, because the European cannot tell you how he got into Europe as a European. He found himself there. The Chinese can't tell you how he got into China as a Chinese. He found himself there. The Indian of India can't tell you how he got into India as an Indian. He found himself there. The African can't tell you how he got into Africa as an African. He found himself there. So these things are called a mystery of life. So if you don't know how you got here, how can you tell me or anybody tell me how the stars in the sky and the planets and the moon and the sun and the earth and air and water and vegetation, animals and humanity, how they got here on earth in created form? How did they get here? Don't know. That's the mystery of life. So therefore, but they don't tell you that in the churches. These religions won't tell you that. These religions will tell you about God created the heavens and the earth, and that some Adam and Eve dropped out of the sky to earth. And that's how they began. They wanted over 400 years, and God said, well, I'm going to take them out of their agony and put them together, and they began to procreate, and this is how you get human beings. That's a lie. I mean, you got to think better than that. Don't let nobody tell you that. You see? So the answer is all this around you, all this life around you, it's a mystery. You will never know that. Now, when you go to colleges, these colleges will, sometimes these professors will give you a theory. A theory is three things you can do with a theory. You can believe it, disbelieve it, or be neutral. But it's only a theory. It's not based in facts. It's not based in truth. It's someone's idea, okay, to try to make sense of what they see that they don't understand how it got into being or where it came from, okay? So God is a man, okay? All religions has a God. Christianity has an invisible, incorporeal God that I spoke of earlier in some of your back programs, Brother Tarhaka. And and this God, this invisible and corporal God, is also connected with being the Father of this corporal, visible God, which is Jesus the Christ, this white image and this white icon hanging on the cross. See? So they give you, in religions, God. Christianity gave you this invisible God, the Father of Jesus. In Islam, they give you another invisible God called Allah, the Father of Muhammad. and the creator of Muhammad. And in Black Hebrew Israelitism and Judaism, they give you Yahweh as God and Jehovah as God. You see? So all these religions has a God. You see? Buddhism has a God. See? Buddha has a father, invisible, has a mother, invisible. See? So all these religions are attached and connected with a God. So don't fall for God. You have to understand about God. And you've got to understand what these religions have done to all of humanity concerning God. Okay? God cannot make or create the heavens and the earth because God is a man.
Well, he had to be, the concept of God had to be created by man.
Correct.
And that would have to be something that was put together for a purpose. So religion and the concept of God was created for what main purpose, in your opinion?
For religion, like you said. Created for religion, to take you away from knowing anything about yourself. These religions rob the human being of their humanity by belief. See, the Bible is a book that one has to believe in. If you don't believe in the stories and the characters in the Bible is dead. Okay? Belief does what? Incarcerates your thinking, incarcerates your mind. It limits your thinking. Okay? So therefore, you gave the right answer. It's these religions is designed, and God is designed for religion. Okay? To do just what I just said, to control your thinking. Carter G. Woodson said it the best. He says, if you can control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. If he's been trained to go to the back, upon arriving at the back, there's no door, he'll make one. So you hit it right on the head. Religion. These gods are created for religion. See, your father is your God. Every human walking this earth, their father is God and their mother is goddess. Can't get away from that. Something created Brother Tarhaka. Something created Walter Williams. My mother and father created me. They were used as human instruments to do that. Your mother and father was used as human instruments to have a sexual intercourse to bring Brother Tarhaka El Bey into being as a human being. That's it. So this outside of that, they want to control your mind, take your mind and place it in a religion and teach you a religion for you to believe in, and you believing in the religion keeps the religion and the lie that's based and connected to these various religions alive. Keep it going. See? That's the trick. So you gave the right answer, religion.
Mm-hmm. Well, who stands to benefit the most from religion?
Okay. In Christianity, the European stands the most to benefit from a religion. Because when you got thousands and billions upon thousands upon thousands of people going into a church worshiping his image on the cross that they call Jesus the Christ, you're empowering the white man, and you're making yourself as an individual weak because you give all your power away. You become a powerless people, and so therefore you are supporting white supremacy. He benefits from that. not you, not us Africans living in the African community, and no other race of people. If there's a Christian who's an Indian of India, he's doing the same thing. If there's a African who is a Christian, he's doing the same thing. Any individual who is bowing down to this dead white man on the cross is giving power to this white race, and thus supporting and enhancing and keeping white supremacy in power. Okay? By you giving away all of your power to this image. So the answer is that the white race benefits from this.
Well, I know it has to be a man-made construct, because if you go to Indonesia, the Buddha looks like the Indonesians there. If you go to Japan, the gods look like the Japanese. If you go to China, the Buddha looks Chinese this time. And of course, you come to America, anything involving Christianity. Of course, you have this a Caucasian male on this cross. In every religion, the God looks like the people in the neighborhood. So, and that's quite amazing.
What you have in these other countries that you just mentioned, you got some of the population in India are Christians. You see? And when you go to Indonesia, some of the population in Indonesia are Christians. Everywhere you go, they got Christians.
Okay.
Why? Because of the missionaries were sent in those various countries to see that this Christianity and this white supremacy is spread in those various countries, placed there on purpose.
Okay.
So who benefits? The answer you gave, or I gave, is the white race, or the white man. He benefits from Christianity because the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. That's your answer.
Okay. All right. Now, let's deal with recap one more time on the Old Testament, because we got this Moses is supposed to have written the first 5 books on the Old Testament. Could you give us the ancient story or the historical background of truth on that one more time?
Well, you see, Moses is a character in the Bible that never walked the earth as a human being. Okay? Now, who wrote the first 5 books of Moses was a man by the name of Moses Maimon called Maimonides. He began writing in 1168, and he finished it in 1180. In today's Torah that the Jews use, the first 5 books of his writings are there, and they're called the Law. The first 5 books are in the Christian Bible also, under Deuteronomy and so forth and so on. So he is the one that wrote the first 5 books of Moses. Now, there's never been a Moses who is a character in the Bible ever walking the earth as a human being. Now, in 1999, in the Metro section of the Chicago Sun-Times, they had an article in there that was written up about the reopening of the Oriental Institute on the campus of the University of Chicago. In that particular article, they had a little small article that said a little known facts about Egypt. And they said that even though scholars may search, there is no evidence of a Moses ever being in Egypt. Hear me, it's good. That article said, even though scholars may search, there is no evidence of a Moses ever being in Egypt. It's number one. Number two, that article said that 10 plagues never occurred in Egypt. Number three, it said the Exodus never happened in Egypt. 4, it says slaves did not build the pyramid. So what do you have today coming out of the lips and the mouth of these preachers? It's about old Pharaoh, which they talk about their own people out of ignorance, had the Jews in slavery. Western academia now is saying that they have no evidence of a Moses in Egypt. The story goes, as a lot of you all know, Moses was placed in a basket by his mother and put down and floated down the Nile River. The Pharaoh's daughter saw this basket, retrieved the basket, and took baby Moses out of the basket and raised baby Moses in the house of the Pharaoh. They say they have no evidence of that. Had no evidence of no Exodus ever happening in Egypt. Had no evidence of the 10 plagues. Had no evidence of the slaves building the pyramid. So now, if there is no evidence of a Moses, because floating down the Nile River in a basket, that is the foundation. Moses is supposed to be the creator of the religion called Judaism. So if they said they have no evidence of a Moses in Egypt, what happens to the religion called Judaism? It falls flat on its face. It's over with, because the founder of that religion has to float down the Nile River, has to be put in a basket, has to be retrieved from that basket by Pharaoh's daughter, has to be raised in the house of the Pharaoh. They said they have no evidence of that. Now, when you go into these synagogues today, they have sitting on the altar in all synagogues the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is a wooden chest, a little wooden chest with scrolls inside, where Moses was supposed to went up on Mount Sinai to meet God, and God gave Moses his 10 Commandments and his laws and so forth. Okay? And on those scrolls is written the laws what God gave to Moses. And that is called the Ark of the Covenant. But so therefore, that cabinet up there, which is called the Ark of the Covenant, with the scrolls of Moses, supposed to have gotten from God on Mount Sinai, all that is what? A lie. That collapsed. Because you got to have a Moses to do all of this. You see? Mm-hmm. So now, then this article goes on to say that no plagues ever came into Egypt. Exodus never happened. Slaves did not build the pyramid. Okay? So now, also the Jews practice what is known every year, the Passover. The Passover is predicated on Jews being in bondage in Egypt under the Pharaoh. The Passover was predicated on the Exodus out of Egypt by the Jews via the Red Sea into the Promised Land, okay, of Canaan and so forth. So now, they said they have no evidence of this. So therefore, that makes the Passover is invalid. Has no foundation to it. It's over with. You see? So now, so let's go a little further. There's a rabbi in the year 2000 who wrote a book called The Original Torah. In this book, The Original Torah, written by this rabbi, his name was S, the initial S, middle name David, last name Sperling, Sperling, who is a rabbi who teaches at the Hebrew Union College in New York City, wrote this book, The Original Torah. In the original Torah, he says there's never been an Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Sarah, Gideon, Esau, David, Solomon, or Joshua. And Walter Williams said that every character in the Bible never walked the earth as a human being. So now let's go back to Joshua. Joshua, as the story is told to the masses of people and believers, that Joshua wandered 40 years and 40 nights to come up on the promised land. And so that makes, if there's no Joshua, that makes that story, what? A lie. See? Mm-hmm. So therefore, you have to do investigative research in order for you to find out all of these things. So that there's no Moses. It's the Western academia is telling you that they're telling you the truth, but they're not going to tell it to you all day long. Now, you got to be at the right place at the right time to receive it. And I happen to be at the right place at the right time, and I received it.
Wow. Now, major, because we have a major problem here, because we got thousands of people around the world actually believing in something that they think is ancient, but was created by a people as early as what, the 16th century? They started writing the 11th century, and these characters supposed to have lived in the first century.
Maimonides. Mm-hmm. You know, go back to Moses and Maimonides, and then you'll find that that he started what is known as the first 5 books of Moses. You know, and that was in the 12th century. You see, so you have to go all the way back to that. But in order for you to really understand things, you have to go back a little further. You got to go back to Solomon Bar Isaac called Rashi. Okay, and you get to that point.
Okay, now when we get to the New Testament, let's recap on that and get the times and date and the individuals that were involved in that again, so we be clear on this thing, because this is some serious stuff, man. You with me? Okay. Dr. Williams' call is dropped, and we'll wait for him to call back in. Keep in mind, if you have a question, the number to dial in right now is 310-982-4184. And it seems that our guest call is dropped, and we'll wait for him to dial back in. But in the meantime, we're going to hit a few commercials until you get back. And so make sure you got your questions lined up, okay?
It's time. Summon of the Moors, December 19th through the 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. Several great minds working on one collective, economic security. For the first time in Jacksonville, Taj, Tariq, Bay, Yusuf, L, Akili, and back at the summit, Red Pill and Blue Pill, Tarhaka, Amana, El Bay, Sharif, Noble, and our Amma, the Abundance Child, with myself, Dalo Saku. Register today at www.summitofthemoors.com.
Hi, I'm Tarhaka Amana El Bay, and I want to give you some good news. Over at my website, newdebtelimination.com, is 2 sure-fired and tested methods for, number 1, getting out of debt now and owning a brand new business that belongs to you. Contact me directly, 904-303-9061. That's 904-303-9061. Go over to my website at www.newdebtelimination.com. That's www.newdebtelimination.com. We can kill two birds with one stone. Let's get out of debt now, and let's own your own business. Now, you can't beat that with a stick. 904-303-9061 or www.newdebtelimination.com.
Okay, everybody, we're still waiting on our guest to call back in. I want to make everybody aware that's listening to the broadcast that Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Morris Talk Live 100, we will have special guest, the Irritated Genie. He'll be with us, and he's regarded as the, what does it say here, the most hated black man in America. And so don't miss this broadcast. Irritated Genie of Sufisi has been speaking on issues facing the black world community for over 20 years. He is a committed Haitianist who is also an international lecturer, author, Afrocentric media production specialist, internet radio station owner, and a spokesperson for the Straight Black Pride movement. Okay, this brother will be our guest Wednesday night. This coming Wednesday night, which will be the 18th, right here on Morris Talk Live 100. So make sure that you are here. Let me open up the lines. Dr.
Hey, brother, Tarhaka?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Tarhaka?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay, my phone went out on me. I'm sorry about that. I had to go and get another phone.
All right. Well, now.
So where did we leave off at?
Well, the question was, we dealt with Moses, better known as Maimonides, and with the creation of the Old Testament. Now I want to one more time on this New Testament and the characters that was involved in this formulation and this documentation, falsification of information. Could you give us another brief breakdown on that New Testament thing and its creator?
Yeah, see, the New Testament, since the Hebrew Bible, known as the Old Testament, came out in 1475. Like I said before, the Roman Catholic Church had no literature on their object being Jesus the Christ. So in 1500, Pope Alexander VI commissioned a homosexual and playwright known in history as Desiderius Erasmus to create something on the object of Christianity by way of literature. It took him 16 years to come out with what is known as the Novum Instrumentum. 1519, they changed it to the Novum Testamentum. 1535, they changed it to the New Testament. The Novum Instrumentum is also known as a Synoptic Gospel. The Synoptic Gospel consists of Mark, Matthew, and Luke. They always tell you that John came later. John did come later. In the 1611 version, a Bible that was created by Francis Bacon and Lancelot Andrewes over in England, dedicated to King James. Then your fourth Gospel of John came out, you see. And when the Old Testament came out, or the Hebrew Bible came out, that was put out and produced by way of a collaboration between three European, let's say, theologians, John Ruslan and his two Italian peers, Massimo Facchino, Pico della Mirandola. They collaborated in creating this world's first printed Bible in 1475. So now you have this Bible and out but the Roman Catholic Church had no literature for their object, which is Jesus the Christ. So Johannes Ruslan translated that Bible from Greek into Latin and gave that Bible to the Pope, who at that time was the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, that infuriated him. So in 1516, like I mentioned, Pope Alexander VI commissioned this homosexual, this Erasmus, to write something on the object of Christianity, and he wrote the 3 Synoptic Gospels. He also wrote 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, and Epistles to the Romans. Now, in 1510, Pope Leo III was infuriated because of the Hebrew Bible being put out. Because they had, in 1510, they had no literature, like I mentioned, for the Roman Catholic Church. So there was a controversy caused by Leo X because he called for the confiscation, the destruction, and the burning of all Hebrew literature. Okay? Now, you can get and go online and learn some more about this controversy that was caused by this Bible coming out. And there was a controversy that was started by, it's called today, the Pfefferkorn Ruslan controversy. Pfefferkorn is spelled P-F-F-E-R-K-O-R-N. Ruslan, R-E-U-C-H-L-I-N. The Pfefferkorn Ruslan controversy of 1510. So you can go online, or you can, however you want to do it, look it up. It's called the Pfefferkorn Ruslan controversy, and it gives you a little bit more insight. Now, how did the question today, as I speak, you have the Old Testament and the New Testament under one cover, right? Well, in 1527, a theologian by the name of Jacob van Liesveld put both of those books under one cover, and they called it the Holy Bible, or the Old Testament. It changed from the Hebrew Bible to the Old Testament, so it can correspond with the New Testament. See? So people in the secular community who has been indoctrinated and believe in Christianity, they won't get suspicious. See? So therefore, he changed the name from the Hebrew Bible to the Old Testament to correspond with the Novum Instrumentum, which is the New Testament. So that's how you get both books on one cover.
Okay, and then once they got the entire fraud put together, they began to promote this thing as if it was a reality.
Correct.
But now, in my opinion, I think the people that were doing this, one a large portion of these people pretty much illiterate, and where were they getting the stories from to put in this, in between these covers?
Well, see, you had a few Europeans who were literate. Okay? Now you had the masses of Europe, or Europeans living in Europe, were illiterate. That's the reason why the Renaissance era came about in the 15th and 16th century. The Age of Learning. Teaching the Europeans in Europe to come out of the darkness into the Age of Learning through what is known as the Renaissance era of the 15th and 16th century. That's where the masses of people began to learn how to read. But prior to that, the Europeans who could read learned how to read from our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, who were the first and literate people on planet Earth. You see? So by them, the Europeans, one has to realize this, Europeans did not develop in Europe because they had no alphabet to develop with. Had nothing to make them literate. They developed in Egypt and Turkey, being around our ancient Egyptian ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. They're the ones that taught them. So you had a few learned men during that time. Okay, and see when the Renaissance era started, I told you about Manuel Chrysolus, the African who was born in Constantinople, who taught at the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, the world's first college or university for the European, the Hagia Sophia. He came in 1397 into Florence, Italy, as a curia there. Curia means college, and he taught the rudiments of the Greek alphabet to those few male students there. But no more than about 8, 9, 10, or 12 students. You see, but now you had other Europeans had studied over with our ancient Egyptian ancestors, so they were able to be literate men. You see, so they were able to write and do things like that.
Okay.
So that would be my answer to you.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that having no history, they would have to draw from someone who did have a history, and then that would mean that they had to be taking the stuff from somewhere, and not only that, they had to be making up stuff as they went along. But now you said in the article that was written in Chicago that there's no evidence of any of these characters back in the Old Testament ever existing, no evidence whatsoever. So I would suspect that the same thing had to occur involving the New Testament as well.
But the whole thing, see, because Erasmus only wrote in the New Testament of the Novo Testament, he only wrote 9 manuscripts: Mark, Matthew, and Luke, 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, Galatians, and the Epistles to the Romans. Now, there's only 27 books of the New Testament. He wrote 9 of them. So you had 18 other books that makes up the New Testament today. Those 18 were produced by apocryphal writers. The word apocryphal means books of unknown authorship, or apocryphal writers, which means books produced by spurious writers. Same thing, you see? And the same thing with the Old Testament. You got 39 books of the Old Testament, but the first 5 can only be accounted for by pointing to a man who created those first 5 books, you see? And then you got the 34 books that are left, which makes up the 39 books, are written by apocryphal writers, books of unknown authors, you see? Jewish writers, you see? So that's how you come about that. So yes, they did, as when the institutions began to grow, and the Renaissance era began to grow, and people began to learn over there, they had to put something in their institutions to try to make themselves and give themselves something of value as a people. So therefore, what could they put in there? What lies? What mythology? You see? Made up stories, made up characters, made up historians, made up this and made up that. You see? So that's how that came about.
Now, so they were mixing their mythology, because I know they had the name Zeus and these different characters that they are bringing on TV, Zeus, Hercules, Thor, and all of this kind of business. And so I was looking at your writings in your book in regards to the word Zeus. How did they incorporate that?
With what?
The name Zeus. Was this
incorporated with what?
With the word Jesus.
Because Jesus in Spanish is spelled Jesus.
Okay.
So that's how they did it. So, but they didn't do that until the seat of Christianity was transferred into Europe. You see? And when the seat of Christianity was transferred into Europe in the 15th century, that's was the time when they the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican unleashed a monster on the whole entire world. That monster is known as Jesus the Christ. Jesus the Christ. You see, like I said before, Jesus is spelled Jesus. You see? So they unleashed this monster on the whole entire world. And they also, the Vatican and the popes in the Vatican, commissioned an artist by the name of Leonardo da Vinci to draw a picture of a Jesus having a last supper, or eating his last supper with his 12 disciples. And they attached a story to that picture, fed the story and the pictures to the believers. So today, Christians out here today think that this Jesus was a real-life human being sitting at the table with 12 other real-life human beings having his last supper. Mm-hmm. It's only a painting with a story attached. The Roman Catholic Church also commissioned Leonardo da Vinci to draw a picture of a crucified Christ being nailed to a cross. And they attached the stories to that. Pontius Pilate, and the Jews brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate, and you heard the whole story, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's a painting that was done with the attached stories fed to the believers. The believers believe that. You see, the Roman Catholic Church commissioned Leonardo da Vinci to create Mary Magdalene. Same thing, only a painting with a story attached to it. You see, the Pieta, you know, with this full-grown Jesus dead, laying across the lap of his mother Mary. Okay? Mm-hmm. See, all that was created when the seed of Christianity moved out of northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the Church of the Hagia Sophia into Europe. All this happened.
Mm-hmm. Makes a man a Jew.
There's no such thing as a Jew. Okay?
Okay.
Jew is a nickname, but that goes to a capitalist who takes in jewelry as collateral to loan money on. Mm-hmm. That Jew and capitalist, he gets the name Jew by taking in jewelry. The capitalist is the person who takes in money, takes in jewelry as collateral. He created the pawn shop. Mm-hmm. The pawn shop have 3 balls as their insignia: buy, sell, and lend. So therefore, the Jew is only a nickname. But you got to go a little further than that. Like I mentioned before, you got to go back to, you got to study Solomon Bar, as they call Rashi. That's number 1. Mm-hmm. You got to study Moses Maimonides, called Moses Maimon, called Maimonides. You got to study that. Mm-hmm. All this is separate studies. Okay? You got to study the Knights Templars. You see? And you got to study what went on that created the Knights Templars. where they lived over in Jerusalem, how they sustained themselves while there, what did they do, and how did they create what is known as the secret society, as the Knights Templars. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When in 1118, from the soldiers of Godfrey and Baldwin, his brother's army, crusading army, went into Jerusalem. After Alexis I, Clementus had called for Europe to the barons to send their army over there to help them, the Byzantine emperors, to save the Byzantine government and to save Christendom. One of the barons that answered that call was Solomon Bar Isaac, called Rashi, who was a rich baron who his family had vineyards over in France. Okay? And he lived in Treves, France. So, long story short, the army of Godfrey and Baldwin, his brother, within that army, those men created a society that's known in history as the Knights Templars. That was in 1118. In 1128, they got their charter because at the Council of Treves in 1128, that council, those barons and those rich barons who met at the Council of Treves, they elected Hugh de Payne as the first Grand Master of the Knights Templars. You see, and then you got to study the Lombards. The Lombards, all this is separate studies individually, where you can, once you study all of this, and you can see a picture unfolding before your eyes. The Lombards are the people, or that group, who created banking, paper money. The Lombards are in England today on the banking system, or the Bank of London, England, is housed on a street called Lombard Street, the crookedest street in the world. See, this is where all the houses, all your banking institutions, Rothschilds and so forth and so on, you know. And they're the ones that set up the Federal Reserve in this country in 1913. They're the ones that create IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and so forth and so on. So they control, and they also control the printing press that prints the money. They also set the monetary value for money for the whole entire world. You see? So it started with the Lombards. You see? And then you go, your next study is Solomon Bar Isaac, called Rashi. Your next study, your third one, is Moses Maimonides, called Maimon. Moses Maimon, called Maimonides. That's your third. Then you go and you study the fourth one is the Knights Templars. Study them. They're all interconnected. You see? The Knights Templars became Dehemi bankers. You see? Connected to the banking industry. You see? And so forth and so on. And they became builders. They created a secret society. They learned how to build from the Moors, from our ancient Egyptian ancestors over there in Northeast Africa. You see, all this had to take into consideration to find out what about this Jew. Then you got to understand Zionism. Who was the father of Zionism? Nathan Birnbaum, 1890. Socialist Zionism, 1896. Theodore Herzl, political Zionism, and so forth and so on. When did they have the first Zionist meeting? 1897 in Basel, Switzerland. You got to study all of that. See, in order to put that together, you got to study back to what I was saying about the capitalists who took in jewelry as collateral to loan money on, thus creating what is known as the pawn shop. He was nicknamed and called a Jew. Has nothing to do with no religious Jew. You get a book today called The Invention of the Jewish People by Shlomo Sand. He's telling you how Jewish people were invented. It's an invention. You see? And the only place that you find Jews is in the Bible in a narrative story. So there's no such thing as a Jew, only by way of characters named in the Bible. And you make the Jew in the Bible a real-life human being by believing in the stories that's attached to the name Jew in the Bible. Like, for instance, Nebuchadnezzar, who was a king of Babylon. That's all biblical. Babylon can only be found in the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar can only be found in the Bible, not a human being. The story goes, he went into Judaica and freed the Jews out of Judaica in 1587. Okay, took them to Babylon, put them into slavery, and then Cyrus II the Great, the Persian king, in 1536, went into Babylon and freed the Jews and sent them back to Judaica to build their second temple. So if you believe that story, then what you have done is that you have created a Jew in human form, just by the story. So that's how it's done. But you have to study all those things out so you can get a whole clear picture. You got to study each one separately. Other than that, you're not going to get it. You're not going to understand it, because the Bible is written in an abstruse manner or form. Abstruse, A-B-T-R-U-S-E, means abstruse means something written on purpose for you not to understand it.
Okay, so now we got these people and places that's being promoted and fostered on the entire human race that never was and never existed, like a place called Persia and a place called Babylon, and these so-called kings that are, and of course they always appear to look European. So what about this Persia thing?
The Persians comes out of Afghanistan into Iran. They're Europeans. You see? There's no such thing as a biblical Persian. A biblical Persian I'm writing about in my book that I'm coming out with in the first of spring, called Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt. I'm writing about the Persian myth, the Persian biblical myth, repudiating the Persian biblical myth. So all that will be explained. There's no such thing as a Persian. Only place that you find Persians is in the Bible, not in real human history.
Okay, because I noticed we got a lot of programming explaining history, and they always connect. Any so-called ancient history has a biblical foundation to it, and in order for you to look at it, you have to go along with the narrator that attaches the biblical information as some type of validity for the subject that they're talking about, which is, I find quite remarkable in watching the stories. Is as if you have a people who never had a real history that has created one, scrapped together one, and is pushing it on the entire world as if it is true. And I know we got Khazarians from the certain regions that are now calling themselves Jews, but the narrative from the Bible and the activities and actions of the people in the region where these so-called Jews exist does not match. I mean, there's supposed to be all of this holy stuff going on, but I don't see none but the same type of behavioral patterns that always follow the Europeans wherever they go. Murder, violence, bombings, killings, shootings, and this kind of stuff. So it is quite amazing to see this unfold. But go ahead.
But what you're saying is true. See, one has to remember that the European has created an institution called white supremacy. Mm-hmm. White supremacy has a foundation that consists of lies, deceit, murder, injustice, perverted scholarship, lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, violence, plunder, hate, rape, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's the foundation of white supremacy. If you want to, I'll go over it again with you. The foundation of white supremacy is lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, violence, rape, plunder, and hate, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That is the foundation of white supremacy. So you're absolutely right, Brother Todd.
I think if we don't understand white supremacy, everything else we think we understand will only confuse us. That's what Dr. Neely Fuller says, and this thing permeates every area of people's activity worldwide: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex and war,
right,
and health care.
Correct. See, they get us, they spread, and they put their white supremacy right there in the church. And our African community, the people living in the African community who are Christian, they go there and support that. Okay? They keep it alive. When you go to school, white supremacy is there. When I went to school, like I mentioned before, they gave me a book called Little Black Sambo. That's white supremacy. See? And they gave the little white boy the same thing, the little white child. But that made him feel superior over me. You see? That caused, suppose that caused something by presenting this book to degrade me and us as a people. So that's a form of white supremacy. When you go to school, they teach you about white people. They don't teach you about yourself, us Africans. Okay? So that's a form of white supremacy. You come out of your mother's womb. Your parents teach you and train you and give you and pass this disease to you that's and virus to you that is called Christianity, which is a religion. That what you're doing is being set up to support white supremacy as long as you live and as long as you be a Christian. Then they send you to school. White supremacists waiting for you there in the form of the textbooks that they teach you from. They teach you about white people, nothing about yourself. Okay? So white supremacy is being supported all over this world, and especially all throughout the United States of America.
Well, I think thanks to broadcasts like the one that we're having here and many others, people of color are waking up to the mechanics behind this thing. And I think the most effective thing that we can all do is become aware, very aware of the fact that it does exist. And if we don't unshackle ourselves in all areas of activities of our life from the tentacles of this thing, it appears to be designed to pretty much enslave the entire world. That's because according to the way I see it, and this is nothing to degrade anyone. These are just the facts.
Correct.
That's what I like to do with the facts. According to the world population, the European is the world's biggest minority, but he promotes everybody else as being a minority, as if he's a majority. But according to reproduction, by 1977, compared to the rest of the world, the people of color, he was at zero population growth, and that was in 1977. And of course, the tax against the people worldwide has increased in all areas of activity that I mentioned earlier in regards to white supremacy, and it is quite extraordinary in the face of the fact that there's no such thing as white people. Because in my opinion, all people have a nationality, and all nationalities are associated with a landmass. Now, if we have Chinese people, well, we all know that Chinese people are associated with a land called China. If we have Japanese people, they're associated with a land called Japan. So how can we have white people unless someone can show me on the map where white land is? Because I've never seen it, and I haven't seen black land either. So it seems that there's a lot of a tremendous amount of falsification, not only in literature, but it's being fostered from every conceivable angle on the earth.
Yeah, see, you take like you say, you've never seen any white land. That's true. Nor have you seen any black land. That's true. But see, when you say white people, you're talking about the European, and the European does have a land which is called Europe. When you talk about black people, which is a color, no land area attached to the name black. But what they're, as an African, you can point to the continent of Africa. They are Africans, okay? And they happen to be the people over in this hemisphere of the United States of America who has been trained to call themselves black, Negro, and African American. They are descendants of the greatest people that's ever walked this earth, known to us today in history as the ancient Egyptians. So we, as a people, are in the best position of all races of people on planet Earth. No race of people on planet Earth can match our ancient Egyptian ancestors' achievement. Can't do it. See? So we are in the best position. All we got to do is reach out and claim our greatness, which is lying in the continent of Africa, unclaimed, ancient Egypt.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I like to encourage brothers and sisters to get your book. What will be the title of your new book coming out in the spring again?
Dispelling Myths of Ancient Egypt. In other words, I'm repudiating the Hyksos. I have a warning in there to all African scholars, teachers, and intellectuals and students. Do not use the chronology of ancient Egypt as written today, because the ancient Egyptians never wrote a chronology themselves. The chronology that's out there, and it's supposed to be the chronology of ancient Egypt, was written by Western academia using the Bible to do so, and I got 5 different chronologies in there to demonstrate that. 3rd chapter is dispelling the myths of the Persians, the biblical Persians. The 4th chapter is why the Meta-Netia hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. I have that in my historical origin of Christianity book, Why the Meta-Netia hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. But in this particular book, not only am I putting that in there, but I got in my Christianity book, but I'm adding an appendix to the appendix. You see?
Okay.
I'm talking about the rebus system and things like that. So to add more insight, more knowledge to why the Melanesian hieroglyphics has never been deciphered. And one of the most important chapters in this book is written by my wife, Professor Sister Annetta Williams. The Sumerian cuneiform myth exposed. Okay? I'm doing a little writing on the Sumerians and so forth and so on. But she has done over 3 years of intense study and research on that subject. And you should see the information she had brought up. It's just amazing.
Wow.
So that book, when it comes out, it's going to be loaded and pregnant with new information that no one out here has put out into, especially the African community. See? My 2 books, Historical Origin of Christianity, Historical Origin of Islam, is pregnant with information that no one has put out in the African community but Walter Williams and my wife, Professor Sister Arnetta Williams. Because in each book, she's got a chapter. In each of the 2 books, Historical Origin of Christianity and Historical Origin of Islam.
Okay, now, the subject of the historical origins of Islam, will we get a chance to hear your take on that in its entirety? I would like to see if you would have the time to come back on the broadcast next month, and we can use that as a subject so we can get a thorough breakdown on that. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of what we've already heard involving Christianity plays a part in that too. Am I right?
That's correct. Absolutely. So when I come back next month on your program, I will give you some more insight on the first Islam, Mohammedanism. I will give you some insight on today's Islam, which is today's Islam is based upon a book called the Quran. I'll give you a breakdown on that, how that was created, what year, who created it, so forth and so on. I will talk about Muhammad ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad, who gave us Mohammedanism, and so forth and so on. I gave you a little excerpt tonight, but anyway, I'll piece it together and put it together where it'll flow a little better, where you can understand it.
All right. Do you have any information on Noble Drew Ali?
Noble Drew Ali. I got to go back in my conscious memory and pull up. You know, he got he died in 1929, right here in Chicago. The police beat him while he was in jail, and they released him. He came out and he died right after that. There's a temple on the north side of Chicago that teaches the theology of Noble Drew Ali. Okay. I have a publication that came out some years back with the whole paper dedicated just about to Noble Drew Ali. So I got copies of that. Noble Drew Ali is buried right here in Chicago at Burr Oak Cemetery.
Okay.
And he's got a big mausoleum out there. When you come through the gates into that cemetery, you'll see his mausoleum staring right in his face. Noble Drew Ali. You know. So he's, you know, Noble Drew Ali came before Elijah Muhammad. When he died, Master Fard Muhammad took over as the leader of his movement right here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And the people in that movement ran Master Fard Muhammad out of Chicago, and he fled into Detroit, and that's where Elijah Muhammad met him. So, Noble Drew Ali was a longshoreman originally, and he got inspired supposedly in Egypt when he went over there and saw the pyramids and other artifacts and monuments over there. His common name is Timothy Drew. That's his common name. That's his slave name. So that's just a little overview of some of the things I know about Noble Drew Ali.
Okay. Well, Dr. Williams, I would like to make the announcement to the listening audience that if you have a question, now is the time to raise your hand. The phone lines are open. The number to dial into the broadcast is 310-982-4184. And you simply press 1 on your phone dial, and I will open up the lines, and you can ask your question, give us your comment. That's 310-982-4184. Now, you say your new book is going to be released in the spring, and I can't wait to get a copy of that book. I'm really looking forward to it. And but I will be giving you a call so that we can get set for next month's broadcast on the historical origins of Islam. But now, in Dr. Williams, well, hold on, we got a caller with the hand raised here. Area code 708, you're on the air. What's your question or comment? Tell us who you are. 708, you're on the air. Okay.
Hello, may I hotep to
Hello.
Dr. Williams? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you, Brother Keith. May I hotep to you?
May I hotep to you, Dr. Williams, and to your gracious host, Brother Tarhaka.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, I'm just calling from Chicago with well wishes and thanks to both of you brothers for making this information available to the African community. One question I do want to ask Dr. Williams is, me and my wife, we recently, this year we decided to go to the Oriental Museum that you spoke of with that article.
Yes.
And we saw these artifacts that they had, and I just wanted to ask you, in your opinion, I know you had the museum. Is that stuff of the pharaohs and is how authentic is it? Do you know?
Well, the answer to that is this, Brother Keith, is that museums all over the world have replicas of our ancient Egyptian ancestors' artifacts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, that don't mean that all of them that's in those museums are not authentic. But the museums all over the world, they replicate the artifacts that came out of Egypt. Now, where are some of your real ancient Egyptian artifacts that came out of the culture of our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians? The Berlin Museum.
Berlin.
This guy, Battista Belzoni, in 1818, went into Egypt and bribed, stole, and paid his thieves over there to steal certain artifacts, and he brought them back to London, England, where the British Museum is at. And he had enough to fill 4 floors of authentic artifacts from our ancestors' culture and civilization that they created over there in ancient Egypt. You can go into the Louvre in Paris, France. They have some real artifacts that came out of ancient Egypt from our ancestors' collection. Then you can go into Tehran, Italy, at the Tehran Museum there. They have a lot of authentic artifacts that came from the culture of the ancient Egyptians.
Okay.
So you go into the Berlin Museum, the same thing. They have a lot of authentic artifacts that came from our ancestors. Then you go into the Vatican. The Vatican's got a whole lot of authentic artifacts that came out of ancient Egypt via the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, because they was taking boatloads of manuscripts and artifacts from that church, and they brought them over into Italy on the outskirts of Rome when they was building the Vatican over there. So today, as I speak, they have the Vatican, ancient Egyptian Coptic Museum, and the Vatican has a Coptic library over there, you see. So the first thing that you need to know is that a lot of museums, along with the ones I told you about, they also have a replica or reproduced artifacts coming out of our ancestors' museums and culture over in ancient Egypt. So that would be my answer to you.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. The thing is, in this exact same museum that had replica, they also had some perverted replications of biblical stuff. You know, with I think it was Sennacherib, King Sennacherib, you know, all those things too, and they were selling it as though it was authentic. So that's why I just asked that question, because, you know, you go into certain museums and you want to, I guess, find out which ones are reputable. But now knowing what I know, I can walk into this Oriental Museum and look at anything, or any museum, and look at anything that is supposed to be authentic, historical replicas. If it's biblical, I know the real deal. So
right. Well, that's good. Now you go to the Field Museum right here in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They have a exhibit called Inside Egypt. Inside Egypt was put up by the University of Chicago, Frank Yorko, Peter Piccioni, and other so-called Egyptologists. As you descend down in the basement to see this exhibit at the Field Museum, they have case on the wall, a display case, and they have a placard next to that display case. It says ancient Egyptian fakes. They show you how they create fakes and what's fakes and so forth and so on. So you, with the knowledge that you're seeking, you should be able to go into any museum and look, and you can tell what's real and what's fake, or whatever the case might be. But you keep on studying like you're doing, and your mind will be equipped, and your eyesight and your eyes will be equipped to do just that.
Absolutely. Well, in closing, you mentioned all of these different people, the Lombards, the Crusades, Solomon Bar Isaac, and, you know, as I listen to your lectures, jotting this stuff down. I'm going to the internet and I'm looking these people up. And like you say, the story started to unfold right before your eyes. So,
right.
So I'll be doing this the rest of my life. I see that right now. And so
I've spent 40 years of my life thus far.
Yeah, I appreciate you. And my wife, Joy, sends her love to you and your lovely wife, Anna. So we're going to go and let someone call in with questions. So may I hotep to you again, Dr. Williams, and we love you and we appreciate you so much for sharing this very, very important and hidden information. And thank you, too, Brother Tarhaka, for being, for having Dr. Williams on. Thank you both.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for calling in, Keith, and may I hotep to you and give my love to Joy, and I love you both. So may I hotep and keep up what you're doing. Keep on doing it.
May I hotep.
Okay. Dr. Williams, what is the damage, falsification, in your opinion? What is the amount of damage that Christianity has done by having it falsehood upon the human race in this way?
Well, Christianity and all religions have misled all of humanity because all religions takes and steal the humanity from the human being, steal their personal humanity because they are, and steal their minds, incarcerate their minds by what? In order to keep a religion alive, you have to believe in the stories that's attached to it. See? Mm-hmm. So, in other words, these religions are entertaining the minds of the masses of people. And that is very detrimental to all of the masses of people that's walking this earth, except the only smart person or the smart people in the masses are the atheists. He don't believe in any of this junk. So he's a smart man, smart woman. You see? So he's not caught up in that. But the rest of the world and the people are caught up in these various religions, and all of them are very detrimental to each and every individual human because all religions, one, in order to practice it, you have to believe what's the stories that's attached, and because all religions have laws, rituals, customs, and ceremonies for that individual to abide by in order to practice that religion. So that puts an individual in bondage, incarcerates your thinking. It limits your thinking. You cannot think. You see? So that's what I have to say to that. And then you got to remember that religions will give you side effects. The first side effect is confusion. You're confused because you don't know who you are as a human being. That's confusion right there. And you don't even know it, don't even realize it. Second side effect is it limits your thinking. Why and how? Because religion teach you to believe it. The Bible is a book that one has to believe in. All religions is religions that you have to believe in. That's your side effect. Then the third side effect works on your subconscious mind through animation. When you are told that this Jesus is crucified on the cross, you begin to see this Jesus being crucified on the cross in your mind. Okay? You cause the animation to take place in your thoughts. And from the animation, you put it down and store it in your subconscious mind. And then from your subconscious mind, it superimposes on you the human being. And then the fourth side effect is fear. They tell you if you don't believe in this Jesus Christ, you're going to die and go to hell. That's fear, you see? So these religions are very detrimental to all of humanity, no matter what name, religion that one practices. It's all being done by way of belief. And belief destroys the human being. It takes the human being away from his own humanity.
So the devastation that religions is currently putting on the peoples on the planet is extremely devastating. Is extremely devastating and costly to the individual. It is it's really a serious matter when you try to hold a conversation with a Christian and they cannot talk to you without bringing up some type of religion or God or the Bible. If you, because I tried to hold a conversation with a man. Matter of fact, I approached him, and I said, "Well, look, I need to get your opinion on a financial matter." And the first thing that he told me was, "Well, if it ain't got Jesus in it, if it ain't about Jesus, you ain't got nothing." And I was like, "Wow, I'm not I'm not talking about any form of religion. I'm trying to get your opinion on something." "Well, I'm just saying, if Jesus is not at the foundation of it, then I was like, okay, let me leave you alone, because you can't even hold a conversation because your brain is so permeated with religion and the concepts of religion that you can't hold a conversation outside of religion." And in my opinion, that's really sad.
You just got to telling me about a person whose religion has taken their humanity away from them. That man's humanity is gone. He don't even know who he is as a human being. See, that's what religion will do for you, Brother Tarhaka. It steals one's humanity, and belief incarcerates your thinking. It limits your thinking. It puts you in bondage. It puts you in a jail cell. That's it. Belief. Very dangerous. You see? So these people are walking around calling themselves Christians, and they're working and developing something and thinking on something and worshiping something that helps destroy them, and by way of them not understanding what they're believing in.
That is quite extraordinary.
That's right.
Wow. And to think that Jesus and God can only be used for religious purposes only.
That's correct. That's correct.
So
that's the only thing you can use God and Jesus for.
So if I wanted to cross the border, and they required, if I wanted to leave the country, and they required that I have a visa, and I told them that, well, I'm not going to use any money to purchase a visa because I'm a child of God, and I'm going to invoke my belief in God and Jesus.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't do that because I can only use Jesus and God for religious purposes only. So
that's right.
I run the risk of
money
going to jail if I don't leave.
That's right.
Wow, and that puts you imprisons the brain.
That's correct. It incarcerates your thinking. You're in a prison cell. You cannot think outside of the box. You are out of your mind. You're not in control of your thinking. The religion is controlling you. You're in bondage. You're handcuffed and leggings on. The big ball at the end. See, all of that. You're a prisoner of your own thinking and your own actions. And you're supporting white supremacy. Because you tell this white man you love him. You call him God. You're God. But if I ask the Christians, what is the name of your God and who is your God, they can't tell me. That looks like you, your African God. What and who is your African God? They can't tell me. So that's destruction. So you see a person like that, Brother Tarhaka, you got to leave him alone.
Oh yeah, no doubt, because you can't. I mean, it's like you run into a brick wall, and I'm the type of individual like this. I mean, if we're going to hold a conversation about something, especially if it's something that maybe I've heard about or something, the least I can do is look at the subject with an open mind. But people who are steeped in religion can't do that. Their mind is steel shut, like a steel cage. And that is quite amazing how religion does that.
Well, like I said before, religion steals an individual's humanity. That's all. That's what it does. It steals your humanity away from you. And you don't even know your humanity is being stolen away. Because you don't know nothing about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
See, so it's a vicious circle, Brother Tarhaka.
Yes, it is. I had an opportunity to have a sit down with a guy. He was a Christian guy. He was recommended to me by my brother, which, by the way, is a deacon. And
wow.
He and I can't sit down 5 minutes. Well, actually, he don't. If he hold a conversation with me, he'd make sure that no religion even get mentioned, because I'll tell the truth in a minute. But he invited a friend over, and this guy and I, we started talking about law, and I was showing him some documents and stuff, and we was able to hold a conversation about that. And then he asked me about what I believe or which church I attended. And, of course, I told him none, and I don't practice any forms of religion. And he came out with a category of religious questions to ask me. And I thought that was very, very interesting, because I had never seen taken the time to create a series of questions to ask someone who has told them straight out that they do not participate in any forms of religion, Jesus, God, or any of that whatsoever. And this guy began to rimp and rave, and as if he's about to preach a sermon. And I said, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I say, you asked me a question, and I gave you an answer. And then, of course, he's asking me about whether or not I'm concerned about my soul and all of this business here. And I told him, I said, well, I think we were doing better when we were talking about law. So let's put the religion down, because this is a mess that we got going on over here. Because you can get your shovel full all you want, but I can't do nothing with it. And to learn,
you should ask him one question.
Mm-hmm.
Were you born with religion, or were you born with life? Were you given life coming out of your mother's womb, or were you born with a religion? On your birth certificate, does it say Christian on there? What does it say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All humans was given, coming out of their mother's womb, everything that they would spiritually need to sustain themselves as a human being. It's given to you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Man is the one that gave us the religion. So you ask him, were you given a religion coming out of your mother's womb, or did you have life? Which one? Okay. So now, if he's going to say, no, I wasn't given a religion, then how did you get one? Put him on the defense. Start asking him questions. If you ask people, the ministers start talking about the Bible, I said, okay, let me ask you this question. When was the first Bible ever printed on planet Earth? What country was it printed in? What city in that country was it printed in? What alphabet was used to print that Bible? Who formulated that Bible? Using whose materials to formulate that Bible? And what was the orthodox name of that Bible? And after you ask a question, I tell all my students, when you ask a question, say no more after that.
Mm-hmm.
All silent, because if you keep talking, that individual is going to use some of those words that you keep talking and swing out of it, and the next thing you know, he's going to be asking you a question that he didn't answer your first question.
Yeah.
See? So if you can tell me all that when I ask you about the Bible, then you know something about the Bible. But if you can't tell me that, you don't know a damn thing about the Bible.
Well, you're right about that. We got another caller with his hands raised. I'm going to open up this line.
Okay.
Area code 972. You're on the air. 972.
Hey, Brother Tarhaka.
Hey, how you doing, Sharon? Welcome to the broadcast.
All right. Well, thank you. I've been enjoying the broadcast so far. And so I just wanted to ask the brother one question, make sure I got everything right. So in his opinion, maybe it's not opinion, a fact, he believes that any organized religion other than religion that you have from your ancient ancestors and your history is not doing any good for you. It's just dehumanizing you and taking over your brain. Is that correct?
That's correct. Another thing, sister, you have to remember that our ancient Egyptian ancestors never had a religion. They had a spiritual way of life. The underlying principle of their spiritual way of life that guided them was the principles of Me'at, truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. They didn't have no religion. If they had a religion, they could never, ever built the pyramid 490 feet high with a base on all four sides, 756 feet square on all four sides. They couldn't have built that. They couldn't have built the Sphinx, body of the Sphinx, one city block long, with 6 stories high, with an African face carved in stone. Okay, they couldn't create the mathematics that was used to build the pyramid and build buildings and things like that. They couldn't have the civilization that they created there in ancient Egypt. Literacy, the world's first alphabet. They created the world's first alphabet, thereby becoming the first literate people on planet Earth. And every other form of civilization that is being used today came out of that one culture, out of ancient Egypt, our ancestors. They couldn't have done that with a religion. Because religion does what? It limits your thinking. It incarcerates your mind. Because one has to believe in these different religions. All religions have laws, customs, ceremonies, and rules to abide by. So that puts you in bondage. Incarcerates your mind. Limits your thinking. You see? So that would be my answer to you.
I do believe.
Okay.
What was that, sister?
Did I answer your question?
I believe all of that because I know I've become more conscious and learning more about my ancient history, and the religion was the hardest thing for me to let go. Just because I was just always brought up in the house, and my grandparents raised me. They had a picture of white Jesus on the mantelpiece and things of that nature. And I was just raised that way in the Church of Christ. That's the way I was raised up. And so as I got older and started to learn more about my culture, my ancient history, and my story, and then it started revealing that all of these things that I have been taught was not correct. And still I battled with it before, even though I was reading the facts, it still was a battle for me to let go of that religion piece of it. That was the hardest aspect of it, all of it.
You know why, sister? You were an addict, like a drug addict, alcoholic. It's hard for an alcoholic or drug addict to stop using drugs. When they decide to stop using drugs, they go through a traumatic experience that their body has to go through, and their mind has to go through, their spirit has to go through in order to release all that stuff. You see? So I'm glad that you took the time to withdraw from religions so you can go on with your life. Hello?
Okay.
Not one bit.
Okay.
I mean, every day I don't miss it one bit. And I still have a lot of religious people in my family who tell me that since now I'm struggling, going through hard times, and they say it's because I let Jesus go as the reason as to why I'm struggling. So I asked them, where was Jesus when I was struggling with him? I was struggling with him, and so where was he then?
Okay.
In other words, you begin to think. Right. That's what it takes. See, these programs, like Brother Tarhaka, who invited me on, is designed for our African community, the people in our African community, to provoke thought, thinking that will help them liberate themselves by thinking. See? Hello?
Well, I had to cut it off. We had a lot of background noise over there.
Right.
Let me open the line back up. Okay, Sharon.
I was driving, so that's where the background noise was coming.
Okay, well, pull over. If you want to continue to talk, pull over and stop.
No, I'm gonna cut it off. I said all I wanted to say. I'm done.
Okay, well,
all
thanks
right.
so much for the call, my dear.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, may I hotep to you?
Okay. Well, Brother Dr. Williams, we're down to the last few minutes. You want to give us some information in closing?
Yes, well, if an individual wants to contact me, they can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. ancientegyptiansn.com. Put your phone number there, and I'll call you back. And that's how you can contact me, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat room now. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we only have 10 minutes left. If you have a question for our guest, now's the time to raise your hand, and I'll open up the line so you can ask your question or comment. But once again, in closing, what is the most important thing that you think that we need to start doing now? Well, I know getting away from these religions, but if we are removing something, we should be replacing the removal of the religion with something else. What would that be?
You were born with it. When you came out of your mother's womb, you had it. You still have it if you're alive. That's your life that's inside of you, that's indwelling inside of you this very moment. You don't have to go outside of yourself to replace it. Okay? You already was born with it, your life. Okay? Know who you are as a human being. Know what you have and how you function as a human being. Know how to use it. for yourself, for your own community, and for your children, etc., etc., etc. You see, so you have what it is for you to have in this place. You never lost it. Okay? You just got introduced into a religion that you know nothing about. So therefore, the religion, like I said before, stole your humanity away from you. That you have to understand. Suggestion to all humans, especially in the African community, divest yourselves from all religion. You don't need a religion. Why? Because you were not born with a religion. Okay? No human on earth was born with a religion. You can't go to get to your birth certificate and read it, and it says you're a Christian, you're Muslim, you're a Black Hebrew Israelite, you're a Jew, Buddhist. Nothing on there about a religion is on your birth certificate. Man gave you that. So you have to divest yourself from all religion. We as a people have to divest ourselves from all religion. You see? I gave a lecture some years back on the 4 or 5 steps of liberation for the African community. One is to know who you are as a human being. Know about your pineal gland. Know about your subconscious mind. Know about your universe that you live in. Know that there are 7 billion people walking this earth of all races, creeds, and color. All are connected by one thing, air. Okay? That in your world you create anything that you want to create coming from your mind. Okay? That's number one. So therefore, if you know that, then religions cannot come into your life and take it over. Divest yourself from all religion. Know who you are as a human being. Once you do that, then you become free. You're a free human being. Because when you came out of your mother's womb, you knew nothing about no Jesus the Christ, no Bible, no religion, none of that stuff. You were totally a free human being. As you grew, they indoctrinated you. Whoever raised you, your mother and father, whoever, indoctrinated you into a religion that you know nothing about, and you still don't know anything about it. See? Because all religions are based on belief. That's the glue that keeps all religions together. So you don't need that. What do you do with the churches that you're going to come out of and not attend anymore? The church building can stay, but the word CHURCH and that cross has to be taken down from the building and discarded in the nearest garbage can. A dumpster should be put in the back of that church. All the Bibles and all religious literature has to be thrown out and put in the dumpster. Any crosses in there, anything that has religious tendency, has to be thrown in this refuse can. Because what you're doing to this Bible, to this church, you are reforming and remodeling the building to conform to an institution of learning. Take down all those stained glass windows that you have in there with religious figures in there, this Christ and this angels and all this other kind of garbage. Take all that out and put in this plain stained glass, if you want stained glass in there. Fumigate the building. Now, turn it into a spiritual learning center where you teach your children mathematics, computer science, engineering. You teach them carpentry, plumbing, heating, roofing, brick masons, so forth and so on. See, so you turn it into that. Then you turn it into a spiritual fellowship center where you can meet up with your neighbors, your friends, etc., and you all can talk and exchange conversations with each other. You have no more religious conversation. That's over with. Third, you find your way back to ancient Egypt, where your greatness is lying unclaimed in the continent of Africa. And you claim and tell the world that you're an African ancient Egyptian, because don't tell them that you're an Egyptian, because they got those white Arabs that's living over there in Egypt today, calling themselves Egyptians. But they did not, their ancestors did not build the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, nor did their ancestors bring forth civilization to all of humanity. Our ancestors did that under the name of ancient Egypt. Do not use the word Kemet. You're doing our ancestors a disservice when you do that, because you cannot go to the world map of human geography and pick out Kemet. There's no place on the world map or in this world where you can find Kemet. There's no artifacts that you can point to that came from Kemet. Okay? So don't use that term. And next time if I come on the air, if you want to go into the reasons why as to not to use it, I'll be glad to do it. See? But we have to find our way back and claim our greatness, because the world don't know who we are. Let me take that back. The world knows who we are, but we don't know who we are.
Exactly.
Majority of us living in the African community, the ones that run into these churches, worshiping this white image on the cross, giving him all your power, making him a God, calling him God, your Savior, and all that foolishness. So once we do these things I mentioned, you'll see a different race of people, different race altogether. So that's what I have to say, or some of the things I have to say.
Okay. Well, Dr. Williams, we come down to the close, and I'm so grateful that you're here to our broadcast, and I hope our listening audience have gotten something out of this thing, and I hope they've written down their notes and stuff, and I'll be looking forward to having you back next month so we can deal with the historical origins of Islam.
Okay.
But I'm going to have to say, Mi'at Hotep, and I thank you so much.
And Mi'at Hotep to you, Brother Tarhaka, and thank you so much for having me.
You're quite welcome. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we come down to the broadcast, and once again, thank you all for being here. I've been your host, Tarhaka Amani El Bey, and until next time, y'all have a good evening, okay?
We gotta have peace to keep the world alive and war disease. We gotta have joy to in our hearts with strength we can't destroy. People hear us through our voice. The world knows there's no choice. We're begging, save the children, the little ones who just don't understand. Give them a chance to breed their young and help purify the land. People hear us, people hear us.
It's time. Summit of the Moors, December 19th through the 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. Several great minds working on one collective, economic security. For the first time in Jacksonville, Taj, Tariq, Bay, Yusuf, L, Akili, and back at the summit, Red Pill and Blue Pill, Tarhaka, Amana, El Bay, Sharif, Nova, and our Amma, the Abundance Child, with myself, Dalo Saku. Register today at www.summitofthemoors.com.